everyone. I just wanted to post a little update from me now that a lot of the dust has settled from the Bungie layoffs. We've gotten a little distance from it, and now that I'm back from the little Destiny break that I took in between Act 2 and Act 3 of Episode 1, I know it might have not seemed like I was gone because I still had some uploads rolling in, but I was mostly AFK from Destiny for most of August, just taking some time off because between March and like the end of July was nonstop YouTube grind for me. And I just I need some time. Now, I know we've had these uncertain times in the past, these kinds of videos, these kinds of updates, but it's a little bit different now that the main story of Destiny is completely wrapped. We have no big horizon to look at, and that there's been 2 rounds of layoffs at Bungie in less than a year. It does seem like we're going to be getting episodes 2 and 3 in hopefully their original vision for them. But outside of that, according to articles and leaks and all that kind of stuff, the things that we discussed at the beginning of August, I'm just not really sure what to expect anymore. We're not getting the annual expansion, so what's that going to be replaced with besides apparently other Into the Light style drops? I don't know. I'm not really going to speculate more than I already have in that previous video. I'll link it somewhere. I'm just going to wait for Bungie to say something. That being said, I think it has now been long enough since the layoffs that it's probably time for Bungie to start talking about their plans. And I do expect to hear from them sometime, definitely before the end of the year, ideally the next 2 months, really ideally as soon as humanly possible, about their plans for after episode 3. Are we going into episode 4? Are we starting a new era of the game? What are we doing? I think they're aware that people need some reassuring now more than ever about the future of the franchise. We didn't get the annual August preview event thing that we usually do, so I'm hoping they do at least a small something to tide people over. It doesn't need to be on that same scale, but just be like, hey, here's what's going on. Something like that, right? We're almost done with episode 1 story. And while I think what we've gotten has been on par with my expectations, on par with expectations doesn't really get people super jazzed up, right? Regardless of what the differences are between episodes and seasons, they still feel quite similar. And now we're just getting few of them year over year, 3 episodes versus 4 seasons. It doesn't matter if Bungie says that they can do different stuff within an episode compared to a season, if the perception is that it doesn't really feel that different, episodes versus seasons, right? We're going to have much more downtime than I think we're used to for the next few months, rest of episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. Yeah, sure, we'll have the occasional holiday event like we did with Solstice or whatever in between acts, but that's not going to sustain weeks worth of content, right? Hell, Solstice sustained me for barely half of a day before I just checked out. And even the story content itself isn't really going to sustain the channel in terms of content, unless you're all cool with me just playing the story content week over week and then uploading some kind of reaction to the story content or whatever. Kind of like what I did with the exotic mission, but just it's story content instead. I don't really have the craziest reactions in the world. Sometimes there's just not a whole hell of a lot to react to. Kind of just feels more like an archive type thing. Although, now that I'm thinking about it, at the rate that stuff is pulled out of the game, that might not be the worst idea in the world. So I'm probably going to experiment with that, where I upload the entirety of Act 1, since we're getting you can play all of Act 1 and all of Act 2 as they drop. I'll probably try it, right? We'll see how it goes. How am I feeling about Destiny right now? The game, post layoffs, post my break, now that we're back into our more typical seasonal, now episodic rhythm. Not the best is the nicest way that I could say it. I am finding it difficult to stay motivated within the game itself for a multitude of reasons. Obviously, one huge one is that I have done 99.9% of what the game has to offer, and there is simply nothing left for me to do. I literally weep because there are no worlds left to conquer, and that's just gonna happen after so many hours in the game, right? It's my job to play the game and cover the game. Eventually, I'm gonna do all the things that the game has to offer. I got all the crafted weapons, which I do want to talk about. I got all the titles, I got this, that, whatever. But another big thing is that I just don't really get excited at the prospect of like a new build or a new weapon anymore because of the current sandbox. I know I bring this up a lot, but our characters, they're really strong. And when we currently overkill everything by 300%, it's hard for me to get excited about something that gets added to the game that lets us overkill by 307%. Like, whoa, crazy. I don't care that a new weapon came out that lets me deal 3% more damage to a raid boss with some wacky ass rotation. Like, it's just the most marginal of upgrades, or upgrades that are impossible to feel in moment to moment gameplay. Look at Prismatic Warlock. Okay, you hold one button to drop a turret, and that's like the best build in the game. If I felt like a certain build could actually push me over the edge in a piece of content, feel like it was the thing that I was missing in order to overcome an obstacle, overcome an activity, then I might be a little more motivated. But again, our character's growth has exploded, but the PvE sandbox has just not kept up at all. Except for maybe the most recent stuff that Bungie has put in the game. The overwhelming majority of the game can be stomped into the ground for me. So I just don't have that resistance, like pushing back. It's like when you're playing like any kind of multiplayer game and you queue up and the enemy team just sucks. Like, they are the worst. It's their first game ever. It's the first time they've ever played a video game, and you steamroll them. It's not even close. It's fun for like 1 or 2 games. I'll give you 3. So now just imagine that, but it's every single game. It's not even a challenge. You might as well be playing against bots. For me, part of the fun of winning and success in Destiny is the struggle, or any game really. There's no struggle. There's no resistance. So I'm like, I don't care. Crafted weapons, crafted weapons have killed my loot chase and have killed my team's and my friends' desire to raid or to do almost anything. The game used to be about grinding weapon rolls. That's mostly been removed, save for some special modes, for like some side grade items. Yes, I know we had like the dungeon sidearm for a little while, but now you can get a crafted one. Like, all that's been removed in favor of crafted weapons. You have the pattern, no need to play the game anymore because you can just craft the perfect weapon now. Now, I know how valuable crafted weapons can be for the more casual player base, and I'm not saying crafted weapons need to be removed because that is just not something you can rip out of the game and have it be okay with everybody. But crafted weapons have just straight up killed my and my friends' desire to do anything once we have the pattern. And it's you don't even need to work to level the weapon anymore. You can just put a bunch of materials into it. I pointed it out in my stats video. As soon as crafted weapons showed up in the game, my time in raids plummeted. Armor has been irrelevant for me for like 2 years now. I delete 100% of armor. You ever find yourself saying something like, oh, finally, I got the thing that I was looking for. Now I can stop playing. You ever find yourself saying that? That shouldn't be how we feel. It should be the opposite. Like, I finally got the thing. Now I can really start playing. That should be the response. But we're just in checkbox mode. Like, I've been there for a while. It's just like, get all my red borders, get all of this, make sure I'm caught up on the triumphs to get my seasonal title, and then, all right, goodbye. So, no loot pursuit, because it's all crafted weapons and I don't even need to use the weapon to max it out. And like, I already have a bajillion good items anyway. No challenge pursuit because we stomp everything to the ground. No build crafting pursuit because the top builds annihilate everything in sight. And I've done enough build crafting for a lifetime. Maybe you can see why I'm struggling with motivation to play the game and in response also create content for the game. What am I looking forward to with Destiny? Episode 3 looks kind of neat with all the stuff that they revealed so far. Besides that, I have no idea. Besides episodes 2 and 3, I have no idea because I don't know what there is to look forward to with no timeline, a massive chunk of Bungie now no longer employed by Bungie, and rumors saying that we're potentially going to have less content going forward. I know that the people who are still at Bungie still want to and are capable of making good stuff for Destiny. But that doesn't change the massive loss of people, literally just pure manpower at the company, not even including their level of prowess at making stuff, at game development. Honestly, I'm not even worried about Destiny so much as I'm worried about Marathon. This is a project that has senior talent from Destiny. This is a project that a year ago or like whatever, recently, somewhat recently in game development world, has changed game directors. The former game director of Valorant now leads the project. This is a project that has allegedly shifted core parts of the game, like going from a customizable character to more like definitive characters like heroes in a hero shooter. This is a project that may be potentially too late to hit the trend of extraction shooters. This is a project that was, I think, supposed to launch this year and got pushed to 2025. I wouldn't be shocked if they pushed it to 2026. It's like, it's sounding like a Destiny situation where in Destiny 1, if you didn't know this, in less than a year, had to completely recalibrate the game for its launch in 2014 because it just, like, look up the supercut is all I'm saying, or like the story of the supercut and just that whole situation. It was not good. It was a decent question to ask. Would Bungie abandon Destiny if Marathon was good? Even if I thought the answer was no, or, very obviously no. It was a decent question to ask, would Bungie abandon Destiny if Marathon was good? Even if I thought the answer was no, unless Marathon was literally breaking unheard of records. But now I don't even know if the question is relevant. I think the question is now, if Marathon is a flop, what happens to Bungie? And like by extension Destiny, because I can't imagine if the game flops, they just like pull everyone back to making Destiny stuff without another massive financial loss and another wave of layoffs, right? Plus, you probably have a solid group of people who would rather just leave Bungie altogether and pursue a different project entirely. Senior level talent. If Marathon flops, optimistically, there's layoffs. Worst case, like, I don't know, Bungie collapses under the failure, or like Sony just completely guts the company and does with it what they think is best. I still think that they keep Destiny rolling if it's still financially viable. Like, it's still a well-known IP with a lot of players, but it's hard to see a way forward for Destiny or Marathon or Bungie if Marathon is, let's say, a financial failure, right? Like, it could be the greatest game in the world. If it doesn't sell enough copies, it doesn't matter, right? It's just hard to see a world right now where Destiny is thriving and not just surviving. As for me, we've gotten this question a lot. My plans are the same. I will continue to cover Destiny as long as people continue to watch the videos. I'm definitely not going to be able to keep the pace that I have over the past 4 months, just because there's not going to be as much stuff going on compared to Into the Light and an expansion launch, right? It's just, it is what it is. Beginning of a new episode, we'll probably have some stuff to discuss, how the episode works, new crafted weapon rolls, maybe some exotic buffs, what's the new meta, blah, 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 stuff like that, usual stuff. But I do expect things to go into a much more significant than before lull in between acts. There's nothing too wrong with that from a player perspective. Like, I don't necessarily mind that as a player, but that's just going to mean potentially less content on the channel as a result. Obviously, I would prefer to not go weeks without content on the channel, so I'm probably going to have some lower stakes, more fun stuff going up, kind of like the tier list that we did, but, I'll think of some other things too. But I fully expect to just not have as much stuff going up on the channel, at least compared to the past 4 months. I would love to be wrong here. This is just what I anticipate. Destiny as a whole is just a very solved game. Like, new tech ain't really coming along too often that makes a massive difference in the everyday lives of people playing the game. You know what I mean? I do plan on giving my second channel a bit more attention over the coming months. I already have, which is where all non-Destiny videos will be living going forward, besides any sponsored content that needs to go up on this channel, which you saw recently. I made a video a while ago explaining why I'm not going to talk about it again. I linked it in the description if you want it. That's just where that content's going to live now. It's probably where I'm going to spend a good amount of time in between acts of episodes in terms of content production as well, streams as well. Destiny will always take priority, like when it's popping and like I have a lot of stuff that I want to talk about, unless the other channel becomes way more successful. Don't think you need to worry about that. I also have gotten some questions about covering other games. Am I going to cover First Descendant? Am I going to do Warframe? New Monster Hunter game? Hey, Datto, you should play this game. It's like Destiny. If a game so closely resembles Destiny that people suggest me to cover it, at the moment, that is a negative quality for that game. It's not a positive one. I don't want to play or cover another game like Destiny. I would rather just play Destiny. I don't want to move from one looter shooter to another, just ping-ponging back and forth. There are no other games out there right now that pull me in the same way that Destiny did. There are no games that I want to cover, only those that I might feel an obligation to cover because they are the same genre as Destiny. I really don't want to hop from game to game, just squeezing all the guide content it has to offer and then just moving on to the next. I know it's a great way to get some views, make a bunch of content, but it's also a great way to burn myself out as fast as possible. And it's not a great way to retain an audience when you want to do something else with your channel, even though I feel like YouTube is less nowadays more about retaining an audience than it is just playing to the algorithm and trying to get as many people to click on a video as possible. I know you're not all coming with me if I started making First Descendant content, right? Like, even if I wanted to, I would have new people coming in, but then we have like a split audience situation, and I just don't really want that. Could my feelings on this change going into the future? Totally. Maybe I have a come to Jesus moment, or maybe I actually try some of these other games in a more in-depth way and I find them fun, or a new game comes out and I find it really fun. I don't know. But at this particular moment in time, the thought of just like hopping from looter shooter to squeeze a bunch of guide content out of it is the most unappealing thing in the world to me. Also, sometimes I just want to play a game to enjoy the game. Kind of what they were designed for, right? Every time I try something new, I'm immediately asked like, "Oh, you gonna make guides on this?" And it's like, I just like want to play a game for a little bit like a normal human being and not have to be constantly thinking in the back of my mind like, okay, how do I turn this into guides and YouTube views? Because it's exhausting, bro. It's exhausting. Right now, I'm like 50-50 Destiny and non-Destiny content. Look, no hard feelings if all you care about is Destiny, especially here of all places. Like, that's all I thought I was going to be as well. And I haven't given you much of a reason to think of me as anything other than like a Destiny encyclopedia that just vomits up weapon rolls, right? But while we're in this in-between moment in Destiny's life, this kind of slight downtime, I want to play some games that I didn't get to play because I was too dedicated to making Destiny content. I want to try some different creative endeavors and see if I'm capable of making some fun stuff, or if I am just locked to a life of vomiting up weapon rolls and talking about patch notes. I want to try to become an actual like person again with hobbies that I participate in and a life outside of thinking when the next YouTube video needs to be uploaded. I'm not even kidding you. My first true day off, my first guilt-free day off in such a long time, back in August, I didn't know what to do with myself. Like YouTube's like keeping a vehicle moving at 100 miles an hour all the time. You need to keep it going 100 miles an hour all the time. It's more work to slow it down and then speed it back up again than it is to just keep it going at 100. And that first day off was me letting the car come to a stop for the first time in an incredibly long time. I did not know what to do. I didn't know how to function as a person because all I've known is just like go, 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 go with YouTube. And it turns out the answer was play Slay the Spire. So speaking of something like that, you might have heard about other Destiny creators trying their hand at some other kinds of videos, variety content, stuff like that, or just devoting less time to the game as a whole going into the future. The only thing that I ask, it's all I ask, is to just give other creators a chance in their new channels, their new videos, new endeavors, whatever they do. If it's not for you, so be it. Whatever. You tried it. But just give them a shot at least. Like, give it a view and be like, okay, I'm kind of into something, you know? I think it's a very smart idea for people within the Destiny creator community to be trying other types of content right now. Just expanding your horizons is really about it. I was saying this months ago. That's why I started the second channel back in December. I did not want to be blindsided by Destiny potentially falling apart, and I wanted to have something else going on just in case. Other people are starting to see the light, or other people, you know, they hit their timer of like, okay, as soon as Final Shape hits, I'm going to try some other stuff. You know, people just lost some confidence in the future of the franchise, or they're just tired, or like whatever. When the marketing machine go burr again, there's going to be hype, right? I know. I'm going to be excited too. But right now, just give other people a chance to be something different, to be something more than whatever they have been on Destiny. I think that's all I got on the updated news and the articles and how I'm feeling. I'm feeling kind of bad. I'm feeling bad after what was arguably the best 3 to 4 month stretch in the franchise's life. One of the top stretches, a stretch that gave me a lot of hope for what was still to come, now turned into whatever we're in right now. I'll still be here to cover Destiny, but I think we got some turbulence ahead. So, as usual, we're just going to have to wait and see. Thank you all very much for watching. I will see you next time.